Unsealed, a trove of documents, nearly 2,000 pages outlining special counsel Jack Smith's evidence against Donald Trump in the January 6th federal case, are now public. These are documents Trump's defense team fought to keep sealed through the election. Our Evan Perez is with us now to walk us through what we are seeing. Evan.
Well, Dana, there's a lot of documents that are completely sealed, that are completely redacted. We can't see exactly what they are, but these documents represent the evidence that Jack Smith has and that he wants to use in a potential prosecution of the former president. Again, if that goes through, of course, the election will decide some of that. But among the things that we are seeing in these pages are, for instance, a memo from John Eastman describing what he said was Vice President Pence's power to not certify the election. There are pictures of those fake elector certificates. Again, part of the evidence against Donald Trump is that they were trying to use these elector certificates to not certify the election. And also there's an interview with an unidentified aide at the White House who said that on January 6th, after he came back from his rally, the former president wanted to see essentially what was happening at the Capitol with the riots, and he went to retrieve a Diet Coke so that the president could sit there and watch some of the TV coverage. Now, part of what as you pointed out, the Trump team was asking is that this disinformation not come out until after the election. Judge Tanya Chutkan rebutted that when she ordered the release. Here's what she said. She said, if the court withheld information that the public otherwise had a right to access solely because of the potential political consequences of releasing it, that withholding could itself constitute or appear to be election interference. That is her answer to what Donald Trump has been arguing, which is that this is an election interference. Dana?
Evan, thank you. I know you and the rest of the team are going through a very, very lengthy document. Appreciate that. The panel is back. Margaret, you spend a lot of time listening to and watching groups of undecided voters, focus groups on what they care about. Is this issue, Donald Trump's legal issues, what happened on January 6th in particular, is that a thing that people are considering as they weigh their vote?
It's really interesting. I would say yes and no. They don't talk about Jack Smith. They don't talk about the particulars of the case or wanting to have a right to know everything that won't come out yet in a courtroom. Many of these undecided voters do talk about January 6th. They talk about the chaos. They're concerned with the president, a former president who still won't recognize that he lost, with having a campaign to mislead supporters, perhaps even to try to block the ascension of the person who was duly elected. But when you ask them, where does that rank on your kind of hierarchy of needs, it always comes back to the money in their pocket, to inflation, to a memory of time before COVID, to a belief that maybe Trump can bring that back. They're not sure if Harris can bring it back. That ends up being more important to them often than abortion rights or reproductive rights, and almost always than January 6th. And what it tells me is that these undecided voters or swing voters, they don't really believe that their freedoms or our democracy is on the line.
Yeah, it's so interesting because if Donald Trump wins, all of this goes away for the most part, all of this, meaning the lawsuits on the federal level. Let's talk a little bit more about Donald Trump and what he is discussing. This morning, he went on Fox and Friends, a very friendly forum for him. And one of the things that they were pressing him on is whether or not he is going to campaign with Nikki Haley, who, as we reminded our viewers yesterday, continued to get votes from Republican primary voters, even when she was out of the campaign, to see if he would do that, because for lots of reasons, but first and foremost, he's got a problem with female voters still. Let's look at his answer.
They keep talking about Nikki. I like Nikki. Nikki, I don't think should have done what she did, and that's fine that she did it. But even in her own state, in South Carolina, when she was the governor, I beat her by a number that nobody ever heard, by 50 points or something. And then they say, oh, when is Nikki coming back in? Nikki is in. Nikki is helping us already.
I mean, that does not sound like a person wooing another person. By the way, right after that, he then turned to talk about how great Elon Musk is.
Look, I mean, this is something that, he said he likes her, but he remembers what she said during in the final weeks of the Republican primary campaign. It got very specific and negative in terms of his competency and other things. So yes, I would be, if I was a betting man, I would say that we will see Nikki Haley and Donald Trump together at some point for the rest of the campaign. She has endorsed him. We will see about that. The question is, what's the effect? I think most of those voters who voted for Nikki Haley, at least the ones I talked to for months over the campaign, they were Republicans. They wanted someone else. They wanted her. She didn't win the primary, so most of them will vote for Donald Trump, but not all of them. And that's the question. What about that? Not all of them. Some were independents. You know, we certainly have examples in every state of, you know, a Nikki Haley supporter or a co-chair who is endorsing Harris. But the bottom line is most of them were Republican voters. But that's who the Harris campaign is targeting right now. That's why this is so fascinating. It's that sliver of voters that they're trying to make one last go at.
But they had the big Republicans for Harris
Right.
event in Pennsylvania this week. What about the issue of abortion? I want you to listen to what he said on that when he was questioned about it, and we'll talk on the other side.
I think I do very well with women, and I think it's all nonsense. I see the polls, and we do well.
What about the
You
Nikki
have one
Haley?
issue. You have the issue of abortion. Without abortion, the women love me. Now, they like me anyway because what I've done is so good. I've taken this issue out of the federal government and put it back to the states where they're voting.
Without abortion, the women love me. I mean, that's obviously a sort of a nonsensical answer. There's nothing that shows that his stance on abortion has, you know, in the big picture, helped him with women voters. And by the way, the answer that he gave there was in part in response to a question about whether some members of his family, women members of his family, like Melania, his wife, or Ivanka, his daughter, might campaign more with him. He could have also said something to the effect of, you know, I love my wife, I love my daughter. Of course, you know, these are important people that I hope to see more on the campaign trail. He didn't. And instead, it's sort of the big picture defensive, I am good on this issue, and by the way, women love me.